Captain Brooks stood on the bridge of the UESS Discovery, watching the stars pass by. The ship cut through space like a knife through water, steady and sure. His crew of 40 people were scattered across the vessel, doing their jobs. Some were in the science lab. Others were in the engine room. A few were resting in their quarters. Was a man of 53 years. His face was hard and lined from years of space travel. His dark eyes missed nothing. He had been in charge of this ship for 8 years, and he knew every system, every person, and every danger that could come from the black void. The Discovery was on a simple mission. They were mapping the system, looking for signs of life, taking measurements, and recording data. It was boring work, but necessary work. Did not mind boring. Boring meant nothing went wrong. Lisa was the ship's science officer. She sat at her station, checking readings from the sensors. Her red hair was tied back in a braid. She was 38 years old and had spent most of her life studying the stars. She loved this job. She loved the quiet of space and the endless questions it raised. Hart was the communications specialist. He was young, maybe 30, with curly black hair and a quick smile. He was always making jokes, trying to keep the mood light on the bridge. Appreciated this. Space could be lonely and dark. Humor helped. Then the alarm started. The sound was sharp and harsh, cutting through the normal quiet of the bridge. Red lights flashed. Was on his feet immediately, his hand going to the armrest of his command chair. "Report," he said. His voice was steady. His voice was the voice of a man who had trained for emergencies his whole life. Lisa's hands moved across her console. Her face went pale. "Captain, we have multiple contacts. They are appearing on all sides. They are not human ships. I have never seen anything like them." Was already working his communications panel. "I am trying to send a message, but something is jamming our signals. Captain, these things, they are big, really big." The first ship appeared on the main screen. It was not like anything the crew of the Discovery had ever seen. It was shaped like a predator's fang, long and curved and dangerous. The metal of its hull seemed to glow with a sickly blue light. It was at least 5 times the size of the Discovery. More ships appeared, then more. Soon the Discovery was surrounded by 12 massive vessels. They hung in space like sharks circling blood in the water. His hands gripped the arms of his chair. He had trained for this his whole life, but no training could have prepared him for the reality of it. These were not human. These were something else. Something from beyond anything Earth had ever encountered. A voice came through the communication system. It was cold and clear and did not sound human. The words came in English, but with an accent that seemed to come from a place that had no warmth at all. "Human vessel, you have entered protected space. You will cut your engines and prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in immediate destruction." Leaned forward. "This is Captain Brooks of the UESS Discovery. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration. We mean no harm." "Your presence is harm," the voice said. "You will comply. You have 10 minutes." The connection went dead. Looked at his crew. They were afraid. He could see it in their eyes and in the way they sat frozen at their stations. He had to keep them calm. He had to think. "Keep trying to send that message. Use every frequency. Bounce it off the star if you have to. We need to get word back to Earth." "Yes," Captain said. His fingers flew across his console. "Lisa, get me everything you can on these ships. I need to know what we are facing." Lisa started working, her training pushing through her fear. "The energy readings are off the scale, Captain. Whatever these ships are, they have power far beyond anything we have." Stood up, he looked at his crew. He was their captain. He was responsible for them. He had to make a choice. He could surrender. He could follow orders and let these things board his ship. But something in his gut told him that surrender meant death. It meant the end of everything the Discovery stood for. "All crew, this is the captain. We are not going to surrender. We are going to fight. I know you are scared. I am scared too. But we are going to buy time. We are going to try to escape. We are going to survive." The ship shook as weapons fire struck the shields. The alarms screamed louder. "Evasive action," shouted. "Full power to the engines." The Discovery moved, but it was slow and clumsy compared to these alien ships. The weapons fire came again and again. The shields flashed and burned and began to fail. "The shields are down to 30%, Lisa called out. "Reroute everything to the engines," ordered. "I want maximum speed now." The ship jumped forward, straining with the effort. For a moment, it seemed they might escape. But then the biggest ship moved. It was faster than anything so large should be able to move. It cut off the Discovery's path. Gripped his chair, he had failed. He had made the wrong choice. Now his crew would pay the price. The largest ship fired. The beam of energy was brilliant and terrible. It hit the Discovery's main reactor room. The explosion tore through the ship. The lights went out. The alarms stopped. The ship went dark and silent. When the lights came back on, everything was different. The ship was crippled. The engines were dead. The weapons were offline. The ship hung in space like a dead thing. The voice came again. "You have resisted. This was wrong. You will be boarded. Prisoners will be taken. Others will be recycled." Heard the sound of docking clamps attaching to his ship. He heard boots on the hull. He heard the hiss of locks being cut open. He looked at Lisa. She was pale and still in her chair. She moved her hands across her console one last time. She typed something quickly. Then alarms started in a different pattern. "I sent the signal," she said quietly. "It is encrypted. It should reach Earth. It will tell them what happened. It will tell them where we are." Nodded, he reached over and squeezed her shoulder. "You did good. You did real good." The doors to the bridge burst open. The things that came through were not human. They were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shimmer between green and... Their eyes were black and empty. They carried weapons that hummed with dangerous energy. One of them pointed at Lisa. "This one, take this one." Moved toward Lisa, trying to protect her. Struck him down without hesitation. He fell hard. Lisa was grabbed and pulled from her chair. She looked back as they dragged the signal reached Earth at 3 in the morning. It came to the Deep Space Monitoring Station in Colorado, a facility so secret that most people on Earth did not know it existed. The warning system screamed. The lights came on in offices across the world. Within minutes, the United Nations Security Council was in emergency session. Within an hour, every major government had been. Within 2 hours, Commander Daniel Foster stood in front of the world's most powerful leaders, holding a piece of data that changed everything. Daniel was a tall man at his temples. He had spent 30 years in military service. He had fought in wars and led men into danger, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. He pressed play on the video. The words of Captain Brooks came through, weak and filled with static, but clear enough to understand. "We have encountered an unknown alien force. They are advanced. They are far more advanced than we are. They took our people. They took Science Officer Lisa and 11 others. We do not know what they want. We do not know what they will do. The coordinates are encoded in this message. Find us. Save them. Please save them." The world moved. Governments that had been enemies for decades suddenly became allies. Scientists were called from their beds. Military personnel were mobilized. The age of human space exploration was no longer a race between nations. It became a race for survival. Commander Foster took charge of something called the Global Space Defense Coalition. He reported to the United Nations, but he answered to no single nation. He answered to all of them. He answered to all of humanity. At the same time, on the edge of the Nevada desert, Lieutenant Amy Watson was woken at 2 in the morning by a phone call. She was an engineer, 32 years old, with sharp eyes and sharper mind. She had built things her whole life. Now the government was asking her to build something impossible. "We need weapons," they told her. "We need ships. We need to match what we saw in the signal from the Discovery. We need it in weeks, not years." Amy laughed. It was a harsh sound. "That is impossible. That would take decades." "You have 6 weeks," they said, "and you will have the entire resources of every advanced nation on Earth. Build it." Amy drove to the facility in Nevada where they had brought salvage from an old site. In a hidden hangar, far beneath the desert, was something that had crashed to Earth 20 years ago. A probe. The government had kept it secret, trying to understand it for 2 decades. They had made almost no progress. Amy walked around it. Her eyes took in every detail. Her mind worked like a machine, processing information, making connections. "I need to see the inside," she said. "That is dangerous," they warned her. "We do not know what is in there. We do not know what might activate." "I do not care," Amy said. "Show me." They cut the probe open. Inside was technology that seemed to come from magic rather than science. But Amy was not looking for magic. She was looking for logic. She was looking for how things worked. She found it. Under the layers of alien design, there was a structure. There was a pattern. After 3 days without sleep, she stood up and said, "I can do this. Not all of it, but I can do enough. I can build a shield that adapts to what hits it, a shield that learns from attacks and gets stronger. The work began. Across the world, factories that had made consumer goods started making weapons. Shipyards that had built cargo vessels started building military ships. Scientists worked day and night. Engineers built things that should not have been possible to build. In Washington, D.C., Dr. Robert Mills was running a laboratory. He was a physicist, old now at 74, but his mind was still sharp. They brought him the salvage from the probe. "Build me faster than light travel," they said. "We need to reach the coordinates in 6 weeks." Robert stared at the equipment. He did not speak for a long time. Then he said, "It cannot be done." "The world depends on it," they told him. Robert looked at the hardware again, then he began to work. He worked with his team. They worked day and night. They failed. They tried again. They failed again. Then on the 20th day, something clicked. The numbers worked. The physics aligned. Robert had done what he thought was impossible. He had created a drive that could move a ship faster than light. Back on the Discovery, which was now a prison ship, Captain Brooks was being held in a small cell with the crew members they had taken. They brought him out for questioning. "Tell us about your planet," they demanded. "Tell us about Earth." Refused, they hurt him. He refused. They hurt him more. He refused. But in another cell, Lisa was facing something different. They had put her through tests, physical tests, mental tests, tests that pushed a human body and mind to the breaking point. She was submerged in tanks of liquid that burned her lungs. She was exposed to radiation. She was forced to solve complex problems while her body screamed in pain. Most beings would have died. Most beings would have broken. Lisa survived. What they did not understand was that humans were born from a harsh world. Earth was a place of storms and earthquakes and violence. Earth was a place where survival meant enduring pain and pushing forward anyway. They saw themselves as superior because they had technology. They did not understand that humans were superior because they could survive things that should have killed them. With each test, Lisa got stronger, not physically, but mentally. She held onto her sanity, she held onto her hope, and she helped the other prisoners do the same. She was a light in the darkness. Back on Earth, the Valkyrie fleet was taking shape. 15 ships, each one built with the combined knowledge of human science and stolen alien technology. Each one had Amy Watson's adaptive shields. Each one had Robert Mills' FTL drive. Each one was a promise to the captured crew members of the Discovery. The promise was simple: we are coming. When the ships launched, they did not launch from a single place. They launched from every major nation. American ships launched from Florida. Chinese ships launched from the coast. European ships launched from the Mediterranean. Indian ships launched from the Bay of Bengal. Russian ships launched from the Arctic. All of them moved toward a single point in space. All of them moved toward the coordinates Lisa had sent home. All of them moved toward the collective. Commander Daniel Foster stood on the bridge of the flagship. It was the rebuilt UESS Discovery, brought back from the point where the original had been captured. It was no longer the same ship. It had been remade. It had been reborn as a weapon. "Set course for the coordinates," he commanded. "All ships fall in formation. We are going to save our people, and we are going to show the galaxy what humanity can do." The ships engaged their FTL drives. Space bent around them. They vanished from Earth orbit. Behind them, the Earth waited. Billions of people held their breath, hoping that their warriors would succeed, hoping that their people would come home. In a cell on a research station, Lisa did not know that help was coming. But she could feel the Valkyrie fleet dropped out of FTL space at the edge of the system. Before them hung a star, old and yellow, and around it orbited 5 planets. The research station was in orbit around the second planet, just far enough from the star to avoid intense radiation but close enough to gather power. Commander Daniel Foster stood on the bridge of the Discovery. He was calm. His years of military training had prepared him for this moment. Around him, his crew worked their stations. Weapons officers checked the charge levels on the particle cannons. Shield operators calibrated Amy Watson's adaptive defense systems. Navigation officers plotted approach vectors. "All ships report ready," came the voice of Captain Amy Watson from the tactical station. She had left her engineering work on Earth to lead the ships in combat. She understood these vessels in ways that no one else could. They were her designs made real. "Engage stealth protocols," Foster commanded. I want us to approach slow and quiet. Do not announce ourselves until we are ready. The fleet moved forward, cutting through space at a fraction of light speed. The detection systems would register them, but the approach would seem slow and unthreatening. They were arrogant. They believed that no species in 1,000 years could threaten them. They had crushed every civilization that had ever opposed them. They did not expect real resistance. Captain Brooks stood in the tactical center below the bridge. He was still recovering from his wounds, but he refused to stay in the medical bay. His hands gripped the edge of the console as he watched the positions on the screen. "The research station is here," he pointed. "That is where they held us. That is where they are keeping Lisa and the others." Foster nodded. "The station appears to have a single combat vessel nearby, designated as the Nexus Prime. It is their command ship in this sector." The Nexus Prime was enormous. It made the human ships look like insects. Its weapon systems were fully charged. Its shields were at maximum. It hung in space like a sword waiting. "Range?" Foster asked. 200,000 kilometers, the weapons officer replied. "They have detected us. They are moving to intercept." The communication system crackled to life. The same cold voice that had spoken to the Discovery spoke again. "Human vessels, you have come to attack the collective. This is foolish. You are insignificant. You will be destroyed." Foster replied, "This is Commander Daniel Foster of Earth. You have taken our people. You will return them. You have 3 minutes to comply." There was silence. Then the Nexus Prime opened fire. The beam of energy was bright and terrible. It crossed the space between the two forces and struck the first human ship, the UESS Liberty. The adaptive shields flashed and burned, but they held. The energy was redirected, absorbed, converted. The shield grew stronger, learning from the attack. "Fire," Foster commanded. The human fleet opened fire. 12 particle cannons from different ships all concentrated their fire on the Nexus Prime. The energy struck the alien ship's shields. The shields held, but just barely. The weapon was superior in power, but the human weapons were many. They were coordinated. They came from all angles. The battle became a dance of death. The Nexus Prime moved with terrifying speed for something so large. Its weapons carved through space, destroying everything they touched. 2 human ships were hit. One lost shields. The other took critical damage to an engine, but neither was destroyed. Hart had made it to one of the human ships. He was serving as a communications specialist, the same role he had held on the Discovery. His job now was to decrypt signals and find patterns in their defense protocols. He worked frantically, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Code appeared on his screen. Patterns emerged. They were using a mathematical encryption that could see had structure. It had weakness. It had logic. "I have it," he shouted. "I can predict their targeting sequence. The weapons follow a pattern. It repeats every 9 seconds." This information was transmitted to all human ships. Suddenly, they were not flying blind anymore. They could see where the weapons would fire before they fired. They could move out of the way. They could position themselves for advantage. The battle turned. The Nexus Prime, so confident in its superiority, found itself fighting an enemy that could read its moves. The human ships attacked with precision. They damaged the alien ship's shield generators. They struck at the propulsion systems. They were not trying to destroy the Nexus Prime outright. They were trying to disable it. They were trying to get through to the research station. Captain Amy Watson watched from her command center. She could see what was happening. She could see that they were winning, but she could also see that they had more ships coming. Reinforcements were on the way. "How long until the fleet reaches the research station?" she asked. 40 minutes at current speed, came the reply. "We need to break through in 30, Amy said. "We need to get inside. We need to get them out." Foster heard this. He made a decision. He would send the fastest ships ahead. They would be lighter. They would have fewer weapons, but they would be faster. They would be the ones to reach the research station first. "All fast attack ships break formation," he commanded. "Move to flank speed. Use every bit of power you have. Get past the Nexus Prime. Get to that station." 7 ships peeled away from the main formation. They accelerated, pushing their engines to maximum. The Nexus Prime tried to follow, but it was damaged now. Its speed was limited. The human ships raced past it. The defenses of the research station came online. Smaller weapons, less powerful than the Nexus Primes, began firing at the approaching human ships. But Amy Watson's shields held. They absorbed the energy and adapted. The stations became obsolete as their own attacks grew more severe. Brooks monitored the approach from the tactical center. "We are breaking through," he said. "We are inside the outer defense zone, 70 seconds to weapon range of the station." Then something unexpected happened. A destroyer emerged from behind one of the planets. It had been waiting there in ambush. It fired as soon as it appeared, catching one of the human fast attack ships unprepared. The ship exploded. 50 human sailors died in an instant. The other ships returned fire immediately. They turned their weapons on the destroyer. Their concentrated fire was too much. The ship was damaged severely and moved away, limping. "Continue approach," Foster commanded. His voice did not show emotion, but inside he was grieving for the lost crew. This was the cost of war. This was what it meant to fight for people you cared about. 30 seconds to weapons range. Gripped the edge of his console. On the other side of the galaxy, Lisa was in her cell. She did not know what was happening, but something in her gut told her that the moment was coming. The moment when everything changed. 10 seconds. The human ships opened fire on the research station. They did not use their most powerful weapons. They used precision strikes, targeting specific sections of the facility. They did not want to destroy the station. They wanted to breach it. They wanted to get inside. 0 seconds. The first human boarding pod launched from the closest ship. It moved like a bullet, aimed at a specific dock in the research station. Behind it came 5 more pods. Human soldiers, trained and ready, gripped the sides of their transport as it screamed toward its target. In the command center of the research station, the commanders watched in shock. This was not possible. This could not be happening. The humans were supposed to be extinct by now. They were supposed to be easily defeated. They had been easy to capture. They had been helpless. But they were not helpless. The rescue team moved through the corridors of the research station like ghosts of vengeance. Lieutenant Amy Watson led the first squad, her rifle raised and ready. Behind her came soldiers from every nation on Earth, fighting as one unified force. They had trained for this for weeks. They had studied the layout of the station from salvaged data. They knew where the prisoners were held. They came to stop them. Green creatures, tall and thin, with weapons that burned with evil light. They filled the corridors, certain that their advanced firepower would stop these primitive humans. They were wrong. The human soldiers had one advantage that they did not expect. They did not fight alone. They did not fight in their own way. They fought like a single organism with a single purpose. When one soldier fell, the others moved to cover him. When the enemy had superior numbers, the humans used the corridors and the station's structure against them. They turned the advantages into disadvantages. Sergeant Cole was a big man, strong and fast. He fought with precision and anger. When a soldier tried to flank his position, grabbed the alien's weapon, ripped it from the creature's hands, and threw a viewport. The creature exploded into the vacuum beyond. Private Sarah Martinez moved with grace and speed. She was young, only 28, but she was deadly. She had been captured with the others, but she had managed to hide a piece of data in her mind. Information about the network. Information that would become crucial before this battle was done. The human soldiers pushed deeper into the station. They encountered resistance at every level, but they pushed through. They had not expected this. In 3,000 years, no species had ever fought back like this. No species had ever dared to come to a research station and demand the return of their people. Lisa heard the sound of weapons fire echoing through the station. She was in her cell with the other prisoners, and she recognized the sound immediately. Those were human weapons. That was the sound of Earth. That was the sound of rescue. She stood up. Around her, the other captured crew members stood as well. There was hope in their eyes now. After weeks of despair and pain and testing, there was finally hope. The door to the cell section exploded inward. Smoke poured in. When it cleared, human soldiers stood in the opening. They were armed and terrible and beautiful. "Come with us," Amy Watson said. "Now do not ask questions, just move." Lisa moved. The other prisoners moved. They followed the soldiers back toward the boarding point. But they did not make it far before they encountered guards. The aliens had been ordered to kill the prisoners rather than let them be rescued. Lisa saw the guard raise his weapon. She saw the energy building in its barrel, and she did something that no one expected. She reached down and grabbed a weapon from a fallen. She raised it and fired. The blast caught the guard in the chest. The creature fell. Lisa kept moving, still gripping the weapon. Amy Watson looked at her. You have done this before. No, Lisa said, but I have been tested enough. I know how to survive. As they moved through the station, Sarah Martinez was separating from the main group. She had a mission. She moved with determination toward the central command hub. She had to plant a virus. She had to give the human fleet the advantage they needed to win this battle. The command hub was guarded by 4. Sarah faced them alone, or so it seemed, but she did not face them without weapons. She had learned the methods she had learned their technology during her time as a prisoner. She threw a small device into the room. It created an electromagnetic pulse. The weapons shut down. The creatures screamed in confusion and rage. Sarah moved forward, and with the help of Adam, another human soldier, she cleared the room. Sarah ran to the main console. Her fingers flew across the controls. She inserted the drive that Hart had prepared back on Earth, the drive that contained the human virus, the virus that would cripple the fleet. "It is done," she said. "The virus is loading. It will take 3 minutes to reach the main fleet network." But 3 minutes was time they might not have. More soldiers were coming. The sounds of fighting grew louder throughout the station. The human soldiers were good, but they were also taking casualties. People were dying. Lisa saw Private James Wilson fall, hit by weapons fire. She did not hesitate. She went to him, grabbing him under the arms, and started to drag him toward the exit. The weight was tremendous. Her muscles screamed, but she did not stop. She did not let him go. Amy Watson saw what Lisa was doing. She laid down, covering fire. "Go, get him out. I will cover you." Lisa ran, dragging the wounded soldier. Behind her, other soldiers kept the at bay. The rescue operation was holding by a thread, but it was still holding. In the command center above, Commander Foster monitored the battle. The rescue team was making progress, but they would not make it out before reinforcements arrived. The only way to save them was to buy time. "All ships concentrate fire on the Nexus Prime," he commanded. "I want that ship destroyed now." The human fleet moved as one. Every weapon, every particle cannon, every energy projector focused on the massive warship. The shields flashed and burned. The armor buckled. The great ship, so proud and powerful, began to die. But before it died, it fired one last time. A beam of incredible power struck the USS Valiant, the second flagship of the human fleet. The ship broke apart. Hundreds of human sailors died in that instant. The rage that flooded through Commander Foster was cold and absolute. "Keep firing," he said. "Do not stop until that ship is gone." The Nexus Prime's shields collapsed. Its structure failed. The alien warship exploded in a brilliant flash of light and fire. The victory came too late to save the sailors of the Valiant, but it bought time for the rescue team. In the research station, the assault continued. The team fought their way back toward the boarding points. They were exhausted, they were wounded, but they were still fighting. Lisa was with them. She was not a trained soldier, but she fought like one now. She had been through things that would have broken ordinary people. Nothing could break her now. As the last of the rescue team reached the boarding pods, Sarah Martinez heard the notification. The virus had reached the network. The countdown had begun. The pods launched from the station, carrying the rescued prisoners and the rescue team. Behind them, alarms began to sound throughout the research station and across the fleet. The virus was taking control. The coordination systems were failing. The fleet could no longer function as one unified force. The High Council of the Collective met in crisis. The leaders of 3,000 years of expansion and conquest stared at reports that could not be true. A primitive human species had attacked the Collective. They had destroyed a major research station. They had killed a command ship. They had infected the primary fleet with a virus that had crippled millions of soldiers. The High Commander of the Collective was ancient, older than some entire nations on Earth. His name could not be pronounced by human mouths. In their communication systems, he was simply called the High Commander. He sat at the head of the council table and spoke one word: genocide. The word hung in the air. It was simple. It was final. It was absolute. The Collective had decided humanity would be destroyed. Every last human would be hunted down and killed. The infection that had touched the Collective would be purged from the galaxy. The order went out through the remaining fleet. Every ship, every station, every outpost was given the command: find Earth, destroy it, leave nothing alive. But there was a problem with this plan. The human virus was still spreading through the network. It was taking control of ship systems. It was shutting down weapons. It was isolating the fleet into smaller and smaller groups. The collective, so unified and powerful, was falling apart. On the human ships, Commander Foster received the intercepts. He understood what was happening. They had decided on genocide. They would try to destroy Earth. All captains, this is Foster. We need to stop them here. We need to make sure they never reach Earth. We need to shut down their entire fleet. Hart, still serving as communications specialist, moved beside Foster. We have a problem, Commander. There is a central command network. It is the core of their entire military infrastructure. If we could reach it, if we could destroy it, the entire fleet would lose all coordination. They would become individual ships with no support. We could mop them up one by one. Where is this network? Foster asked. On the, said, 17 light-years away. We cannot reach it in time. But Sarah Martinez was listening. She stepped forward. Sarah, who had been a prisoner and lived through things no human should live through. Sarah, who had learned things about the during her captivity. We do not have to reach the, she said. The network has a relay station. It is here. It is part of the research station we just attacked. It was built into the facility. It should still be there. And if we can plant a virus directly into it, the virus can spread to the entire network. We can shut them down. Foster looked at her. You would have to go back into the station. I know, Sarah said. The station will be destroyed in less than 10 minutes. The reactor is damaged. It is going to explode. I know, Sarah said. You will probably die. Sarah looked at him. My crew died. My friends died. Hundreds of people I do not even know died to rescue us. I am going. Before anyone could argue, Lisa stepped forward. I am going with her. No, Foster said. You have already been through enough. Listen to me, Lisa said. Her voice was hard and clear. I have been a prisoner. I have been tested in ways that would destroy normal people. I have watched my friends suffer. I have been helpless. This is my chance to do something. This is my chance to make sure that no one else has to be a prisoner. I am going. Foster saw the determination in her eyes. He had seen it many times during the war. He saw it in every human soldier. He saw it in the species that came from a harsh world, born to survive, born to endure, born to never give up. Then go, he said, and come back alive. A small team was assembled. Lisa, Sarah, and 6 human soldiers. They took a battle pod and launched it toward the research station. The station was falling apart. Explosions rocked it. The reactor was counting down to critical failure. They entered through a damaged section. They moved fast. They had less than 7 minutes. Sarah guided them through the corridors toward the relay station. Behind them, the station was collapsing. Walls fell. Pressurization systems failed. The vacuum of space began to seep in through the cracks. They reached the relay station. It was a massive structure filled with alien technology. Sarah ran to the main console. Her fingers flew across the controls. She inserted the new virus, the one designed specifically for this purpose. It is loading, she said. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. An explosion rocked the station. The floor beneath them buckled. Lisa grabbed Sarah and held her steady. 5 seconds. The virus finished loading. It began to transmit. It began to spread. 0. Run, Sarah screamed. They ran. Behind them, the relay station exploded. The blast wave hit them like the fist of a god. Lisa was thrown forward. She hit a wall hard and felt bones break, but she kept moving. She grabbed Sarah. She pulled her toward the exit. 4 soldiers did not make it. They were caught in the blast. They died in the station, their sacrifice forgotten except by the people who loved them. But Lisa and Sarah made it. They made it to the battle pod with 2 remaining soldiers. The pod launched just as the research station began its final death. The station broke apart. Pieces of it scattered into space like ash on the wind. The battle pod accelerated toward the human fleet. Lisa lay on the floor, bleeding and broken, but alive. Sarah was beside her, also hurt, but also alive. We did it, Sarah whispered. Lisa looked at her friend. We did. In the human fleet, the impact of the virus was immediate and catastrophic. The ships began to lose power. Weapons systems shut down. Shields failed. Communication systems went dark. The great armada that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years suddenly became a collection of isolated, helpless targets. The human fleet, still coordinated and still strong, moved through the ships like hunters through a field. They did not show mercy. Humanity had learned that mercy to those who would commit genocide was a death sentence. They destroyed ship after ship after ship. Some vessels tried to retreat. They engaged their FTL drives and jumped away. They fled back toward there to deliver the terrible message. They had lost. For the first time in 3,000 years, the collective had been defeated by an inferior force. They had been defeated by humans. The battle ended. The silence that followed was heavy and thick. The human fleet had paid a terrible price, but Earth was safe. The prisoners were rescued, and the galaxy knew that humans were no longer prey. Humans were predators. Lisa stood in the medical bay of the Discovery, bandaged and bruised but alive. Through the viewport, she could see Earth in the distance. Home, the world that had sent ships to rescue her, the world that had sent soldiers to die for her freedom. Commander Foster came to stand beside her. He was exhausted. He was grieving for the soldiers lost, but he was also satisfied. The mission was complete. "The fleet is retreating," he told her. "They will not come back. We have proven too strong." Lisa nodded. She thought about the prisoners who died in the research station. She thought about the soldiers who died to rescue them. She thought about the thousands of humans who had given their lives to save one human and prove a point to the galaxy. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Foster said, "now we go home, and we tell the galaxy what it needs to know. We tell them that humans are not to be underestimated. We tell them that when you threaten one human, you threaten all of us. We tell them that we will cross the galaxy itself to save our people. We tell them that Earth is not a planet of prey. We tell them that Earth is a planet of warriors." Lisa looked at Earth below them. It was beautiful. It was home. It was worth everything. The human fleet moved toward Earth. Behind them, the news spread through the galaxy faster than light. The news of humanity's victory. The news of the collective's defeat. The news that the small, primitive humans from the harsh blue world could not be conquered. Other species heard the news. Species that had thought themselves weak began to wonder. Species that had been enslaved began to hope. Species that had been dying began to believe in the possibility of freedom. And the collective, that ancient power that had ruled for 3,000 years, watched their empire begin to crack. For the first time, other species began to rebel. For the first time, their dominion was questioned. It had all started with the rescue of one human. It had ended with the liberation of a galaxy. Humanity had come to the stars not as conquerors, not as explorers seeking wealth and power. Humanity had come as something the galaxy had never seen before. They had come as a species that would save one of their own, no matter the cost. They had come as warriors who fought for love instead of greed. And they had changed everything. Lisa looked out at the stars. The adventure was not over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But she knew one thing for certain. Humanity would never be forgotten. The galaxy would never again make the mistake of underestimating the creatures from the called Earth. Because on Earth they had learned to survive. And survivors do not break, they do not surrender, they do not give up. They endure. They conquer. They win. It was over, humanity had won. But the victory had cost them. 63 human soldiers and sailors had died. The UESS Valiant and 2 other human ships had been destroyed. More than 300 human warriors had given their lives for the rescue. But they had saved the captured crew of the Discovery. And they had struck a blow against the collective that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. They were warriors, and they had come to take back what belonged to them. The first pod hit the dock with brutal force. The doors blew open. Human soldiers poured out, weapons ready, their faces set with determination. Behind them came more pods, more soldiers, more warriors. The battle for the research station had begun. Eeing in the air, she could feel something changing. She could feel the certainty that Earth had not abandoned them. She held the other prisoners close and whispered, "They are coming. I know they are coming." And she was right. Away, their eyes met. In that moment they both understood. Everything had changed. The world would never be the same again. The soldiers spread through the ship, rounding up crew members. 12 humans were selected and taken. Lisa was one of them, wounded but alive, watched as they took her away. In the darkness of space, the UESS Discovery floated, broken and silent. The signal Lisa had sent moved through the black void, traveling toward home, toward Earth, toward a world that did not yet know that everything had changed.